All right, we're back for another edition of Talking Preps. I have a feeling this is going to be what we call a heavy show. Grice will know what I'm talking about because Alex has a lot to say about conference tournaments. Rick has a lot to say about conference tournaments. I think we got a really packed show today. It should be fun as we get ready for the basketball public school state playoffs. The private schools got started this week, so they're reaching the state semifinal round on Tuesday. So let's talk about it all. We come back on the other side of this. All right, we're back with another episode of Talking Preps. I want to bring in Coach Dixon, the head girls basketball coach at Malik Creek. This is her first year, did a really good job. Coach, I saw the playoff brackets come out, and you guys had qualified for them, but you weren't in. What happened with that?
Yeah, so this season has been really a struggle for us as far as injuries. A lot of people don't even know, when we started with 10. One of our girls went down in the very first game in warm-ups. She injured her knee. And it's just kind of been downhill from there as far as injuries. In our last 3 to 4 games, we've had a confirmed ACL tear, a pretty bad concussion from another young lady, and then one of our girls went down with the knee sprain in our loss to West Charlotte last Tuesday. And in that game, we only had 5, so we started the game with 5. And those girls actually, we had 2 girls. One of our post players, Olivia, she kind of hurt her wrist, and then that knee sprain happened with about 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
So you finished with 4?
No, they fought it out and they stayed in the game, which I have to commend those girls for just knowing the situation that they were coming into. We knew we were going to have 5 since the previous week when the concussion happened, and so we knew it was going to be a task going into it. We couldn't have foreseen them getting injured in that fourth quarter. But
holy AAU on a Sunday, I mean that's crazy. How disappointed was it to do all the work all season, get the girls ready to go to the playoffs, and then have to make the decision to call the state and say, hey, we can't even accept a playoff bid?
Very disappointing. We kind of knew that was going to be a decision that we would have to make kind of for the last, probably honestly since Tuesday, because the young lady who sprained her knee is on crutches. So that happened. I'm like, we got 4. There's no way she's coming off of crutches before Tuesday. So, just talking it over with our AD, the day before yesterday, I'm like, I really don't even want to utter the words, but there's just no way we can play. And it's very disappointing because they have worked very, very hard. Right. And just persevere. Like I said, through all of those injuries and playing with 5 people, I told them after the game on Tuesday that I don't think that I've ever seen, a competitive varsity level basketball game where a team starts with 5, ends with 5, and sticks it out. Ultimately we didn't come away with the W, but I think it's something that they should be proud of, and it's something that they'll be able to take not only on the basketball court but off the court, just kind of fighting through adversity and just continuing to show their strength.
Basketball can definitely teach you some life lessons. Coach, before I let you go, I want to bring in Coach LJ Johnson. How you doing, Coach?
Gentlemen and ladies, what's going on with y'all?
All right, I want to ask you, Gary Richmond had a suggestion about replacing the conference tournament with the city championship. And since we got a boys coach and a girls coach on here, I wanted Gary to explain it real quick and then get you guys' reaction. So Gary, I'm going to put up on the screen. You kind of explain what it is you want to do.
Okay. Langston got this started years ago about a city championship. And one day I kind of sat down and messed with it. And so we have 3 conferences in the Mecklenburg County. And what we would do is take the top 3 schools from each conference. Okay. And then you want to rank them based on their max prep rankings. So you see the max prep rankings are in parentheses. You see their final record in each conference. And then you seed them and then play it out like you would a regular tournament. On Monday, you would play the quarterfinals at the higher seeds. On Wednesday, you play the semifinals, maybe on a neutral court. And then the finals would be that Friday, the city championship, Mecklenburg, or you can call it the Charlotte City Championship, whichever you prefer, at Bojangles. And also there, you would recognize all the all-conference teams from each conference, boys and girls, and the coach of the year between games. And I think, this idea of playing conference tournaments is starting to become a little bit outdated. I know we had big crowds on Friday at all the arenas, but think what that would be like if it was at Bojangles and it involved, the whole school system. And so that's the idea I came up with as to how you would format a city championship.
Yeah.
What we've been ready to run into is some teams will end up playing each other 4 times before the season is over. They're going to play 2 regular season games, a conference tournament game, and maybe in the state playoffs. And that gets kind of redundant. I think a city championship would give kids an opportunity to grasp onto something, because only one team is going to win the state. But if you got a city championship, maybe that can kind of come in second to a state championship.
I think a city championship in some ways could come in first. Okay, Coach Johnson, you're seeing this is a girls' example on the screen, but what would you think about not having the SOMAC conference tournament and doing a city championship? How's it strike you?
I mean, that sounds fantastic to me. I was always a fan of when the Dale Curry Classic, the shootout was in town.
Yeah.
At Bojangles and at Charlotte Latin when it was over there, how you kind of had the regional bracket, how it featured a lot of the Charlotte teams and things like that. And just when you consider all the surrounding areas, how they have their own county conference championships, county championships and tournaments and whatnot. I think that it's a great idea for the city of Charlotte, just because of how much it's growing. All these kids know each other. They're friends with each other. A lot of the chatter goes back and forth about, man, if we played y'all, we'd beat y'all and things like that. So I think it's a great idea. I think another problem that you would probably is like a lower seed that needs the conference championship, the conference tournament to kind of enhance their opportunity to get into the state playoffs, needing to make a run in that. If you take that away from them, then that hinders their opportunities of getting in if they don't have anything else to play for and stuff like that.
And I think there's a way
we've seen that in a couple of instances. I think.
Yeah, I think there's a way to include those teams in addition to a city county. You can still have an alternate tournament for those teams. Coach Dixon, how's that strike you, the city championship idea?
I mean, I think it's a really, really good idea. I think, we actually talked a little bit about it, Gary and CJ and I after, during the men's championship, on Friday. And I think it's an awesome idea. I too remember playing, in the Dale Curry and in the Bojangles tournaments around Christmas time. And it was just a different atmosphere, being a Harding, University alum. We had the opportunity to kind of play against Mallard Creek during that time, and that was like our chance to kind of get at them, even though they weren't in our conference. So I think it just makes it even more competitive, in my opinion. And that's kind of what it's all about. Not running and ducking any smoke. Going up against everybody. So
don't run from the
congrats, LJ. By the way, that's super, super dope.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, Coach Dixon, thanks for coming on. Best of luck to you guys moving forward. Sorry about the playoffs this year, but great season, rookie season. I know you're going to do some great things over there in the future.
Yes. Thank y'all so much.
All right. If you need some training, go check out the Eat Academy over on Pine Street. That's the place to work out. All right, Coach. Take care.
All right. Y'all too.
All right. So now we're going to talk with Mr. Johnson over at Harding. Dudes, 17-9. You won 4 straight games. Queen City. Oh, I lost it. Wait a minute. Let me go back and grab it. Maybe I don't know. We lost it. I'm trying to get Logan Blair, star player, on the screen. There's Logan, I think. Yeah, there he is. Logan, can you hear us?
Yep, I'm right here. How y'all doing?
I'm good, man. I'm trying to get your coach back. He was driving in the car. Well, tell us about this season, man. You guys started out a little slow. You're on a 7-1 run right now. What's that like for Harding, and how dangerous are you guys going to be in the playoffs, Logan?
It's amazing. It's amazing. All year, we really couldn't turn the corner and get a big run. So it's amazing that we're going on this run right now, especially when we need to. Miss the playoffs.
Okay, I'm glad you stopped moving because I was feeling like Blair Witch Project for a second there. You're probably too young to remember that. Talk about winning the conference tournament championship and what you guys did to get past Sergeant Kill.
Well, we done played them twice already. We beat them the first time at home, and we kind of let them come back in the game. So we already knew we had the talent to beat them. So when they came over here the second time, we kind of was short man, and they got away with one. You know, they stole one from us. So when they came back here for the conference tournament, we was hungry to win. So when they came in, we was just ready to play. And we executed every play down the stretch, and we ended up winning.
Yeah, I saw you mention after the game you dedicated to your cousin or somebody that had been injured. Who was that, and what happened with that?
Yeah, my cousin Braylon Hamrick. He got hurt before basketball season playing football for Harding, and he was really just my motivation. He's one of the main reasons why I transferred to Harding. Mm-hmm. And without Braylon, I don't think I'd be where I am, today. So
why you say that?
Because the transfer really changed my whole development. LJ, when I transferred to Harding, it changed my whole development process.
Okay. Well, tell me about this team, because you guys started out the year 5-1. Then you went through a stretch where you were 2-5, and then you come back in January. You had 3 straight losses. But since then, like I said before, you guys have been 7-1. Is everybody just getting healthy? You guys are starting to believe? What was it to turn the season around?
Well, everybody wasn't healthy, but I can never use that as an excuse. We just wasn't all the way locked in. So during that winter break, we didn't get enough time together. We didn't get enough time together to sharpen up on our defense or our offense. So it was kind of real sloppy. Yeah. And like you said, we was short man.
Yeah, Coach, same question for you. How'd you guys get this thing turned around?
I think the shortened season, especially in Mecklenburg County, we thought we was gonna have 14 games. We only ended up having that first round of our conference last year. I didn't get a lot of reps for a lot of guys that have to play a lot this year. So it just took a lot. They just needed to see it. They needed to go through the ups and downs of it and just get groomed that way. We watched a lot of tape in between those trials and errors. And, we clicking at the right time. I think that's the most important thing. You want to be playing your best basketball this season and just making sure that everybody is all on the same page. So confidence is at an all-time high. Team camaraderie is at an all-time high. And we just happy to be continuing to play this next week coming up.
You think you guys gonna be a tough out? But Rick Lewis has a question for you, Coach. Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, first of all, congratulations, Coach, on winning the conference tournament championship.
My man, Rick. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Question, looking at your schedule with the 9 losses during the course of the season, you lost 2 tough games in overtime in December, 1 in triple overtime. And then looking at all the losses and a lot of the wins, they were really close games. And I think one of the games that really sort of turned it around for you guys when y'all played Aldrich Hill on February the 4th, You lost to them 48-46. But since then, you've won games like against South Meck 51-50. You beat Olympic 56-54. You beat Myers Park 61-49. And then, of course, that was a game that you won the championship. What was the message you told the players on learning how to win? Because you were involved in so many close games during the course of the season.
I think the biggest thing that I wanted to tell them, just give me a chance at the end to help guide y'all through it. You just stay competitive, be aggressive offensively and defensively to communicate with each other. And then y'all give me a chance at the end, I'm going to get y'all a look. So a lot of those shots, I didn't want to play into another overtime and stuff like that. I went for kill shots and went for threes when we could have tied it up and went to overtime. We was on the road at Myers Park. We went for a three over there. When we played Myers Park at home, we were still kind of shorthanded and we were in foul trouble. So I went for another kill shot there, and they just got stops. In Christmas time, we had all those overtime games from a lot of experienced and well-coached teams. And, we have nothing to hang our heads about. That was my message to them. Don't hang your head about it. These guys have been together, a lot of varsity experience. Y'all still trying to figure it out. And we were competitive in all of them. And all of those teams were playoff teams. So it was nothing really to hang our head about. Just learn from it. So like I mentioned earlier, with us getting a lot of film in and a lot of reps and practice and things like that, they just had to go through it. They all growing pains and things like that. So, as in the past where I might have hammered down in practice a little bit more about guys not finishing, I was a little bit more on the upbeat guy, on the upbeat end with them. I let Logan handle the hammering and stuff like that, just because he's seen it, and he was a part of two really good teams in the past. I just let him go ahead and take care of the aggressiveness in the locker room and stuff like that. So he had it.
All right. Well, Logan, anytime we have a guest on the show, we have a little game we play with Randall where you have to take him on in the trivia question thing. It's called the game show. Randall has a winning record at the moment, and I need you to take him down, Logan. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, I got you.
You got me. All right.
I got you.
So I'm gonna put a few people in the back so the screen's not so cluttered. And hold on, let me get okay, that's what we need. And I'm gonna play around his little theme music, where he does a little bit of braggadocio. And then we're gonna come back on and let you take him down.
I'm Randall Clark. I am not Sam Griner. You will not beat me on the game show.
Okay, Logan, here's the rules. You go first, but you have to let Gary read the question before you answer. And then Randall will go first on the second question. We'll go opposite, okay? But don't answer.
All right, say that one more time.
You're going to answer this first question.
Okay.
But let Gary read it before you answer. And then on the second question, Randall goes first. Then we'll alternate. All right. All right, so Gary's going to read you the first question. Here we go.
Okay, the NBA All-Star Game was held Sunday night. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played 19 All-Star games. LeBron and Kobe, 18, have played the second most. Which of these players is next with 15 All-Star appearances? A, Tim Duncan, B, Michael Jordan, C, Karl Malone, D, Dirk Nowitzki.
All right, Logan, let's go.
Thanks for 15. So, I'm gonna say B.
Michael Jordan. What you got, Randall?
I'm going to go with the big fundamentals, Mr. Tim Duncan.
Dang, gon' it. Randall's got the lead.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. That's what I was going to choose. Oh,
yeah, he's tied with Kevin Garnett and Shaq, 15 each. Jordan, Malone, and Dirk have 14. So,
Yep.
All right, so let's go to question 2. You got to rally now, Logan. Don't let him get away from him because he starts playing four corners. He starts doing funny things with his picking.
Nah, he not. He not gonna get away with it. He got away with one just now.
He
got away with one.
He absolutely does.
Don't be giving away my strategy, LW.
do this thing with his picking. All right, go ahead, Chelsea.
All right. Complex Magazine calls Lil Baby the best rapper alive right now. What's his name? A. Harvey Specter. B. Dominique Jones. C. Mike James. Or D. Lewis Ross.
Randall.
B. Dominique Jones.
Dominique Jones. What you got, Logan?
I got B.
That is the correct answer. So Randall's still up 2-1. That was too easy. Y'all got that was way too easy.
I'm guessing we both like Lil Baby.
Yeah.
He did that really fast. That's a little disappointing. I got another Lil Baby question. All right, Gary.
Okay. Lil Baby's new hit song, Do We Have a Problem, is number 2 on the Billboard Top 100. Which female star is on the song with him? A, is that Shorty?
Sweetie.
Okay. It's got an A in there.
I love it.
Go ahead.
I love it.
B, Lil Kim. C, Cardi B. D, Nicki Minaj.
All right, Logan, what you got?
I got D.
D, Nicki Minaj. Barbie, what you got, Randall?
Man, this is my song. D, Nicki Minaj. I know this one.
It is the Barbie.
Yes,
that is the
I
correct
know
answer.
this one. Hey, we should give Lil Baby questions more often on here. I like it.
Yeah, Lil Baby, man. Yeah.
I got you. These questions too easy for y'all. This might stump one of y'all. Let's see.
I'm not missing no more.
You know what I mean? I feel you.
I'm gonna let y'all know
All
that
right,
right now.
All right,
That sounds good, Logan.
All right, Chelsea.
All right. Which actress will play Catwoman in the new movie, The Batman, next month? A. Naya Rivera. B. Anne Hathaway. C. Zendaya. Or D. Zoe Kravitz.
Randall.
I'm going to go with B, Anne Hathaway.
B, Anne Hathaway. Logan. Did we lose Logan?
See, this what they do
I'm
when the
still
pressure.
here.
Oh,
No, he's still there. All right, what's your answer, Logan?
You said Catwoman.
Who's
D.
playing Catwoman in the new Batman movie?
D.
D, Zoe Kravitz. Yes, sir. He said he's not getting any more wrong, Randall.
So, yes, sir.
It's tied right now, man.
Tied up. On to the last question.
I'm finna be the new champ.
Just the way they like it over there, the close one.
Yes, sir. And you know what Coach Johnson said? He's going for the kill shot when it's close. He's going for the kill shot.
Logan's definitely going for the kill shot.
All right. Gary, let's go.
Here we go with the tiebreaker. Today is President's Day, so we have to ask, which former U.S. president was also a licensed bartender? A, Abraham Lincoln. B, Jimmy Carter. C, George H.W. Bush. Or D, Richard Nixon.
Logan, what you got?
I got. Okay, so see, you got to narrow down your options here. Yeah, I'm gonna go with my boy Abe. You know what I'm saying?
Abe Lincoln. What you got, Randall?
I'm going B, Jimmy Carter.
My man Logan!
Oh my God!
My man Logan!
He took it down.
He took him down.
Unbelievable.
Yes, sir.
He took him down.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How y'all young people say yes, sir?
Hey, what was that famous saying? Down goes Frazier. Down
Hey,
goes
man, see,
Frazier.
I could have took the easy way and just picked the same answer as him.
Down goes Randall.
I was on a hot streak. He should have did the same thing.
Oh man, Logan, this is literally the second time I lost all season.
The man called his shot, Randall. He said he's gonna knock.
He did. He said, "Listen, he did say he wasn't gonna miss any more." So.
He called his shot like that.
No more.
That's
I
the
won't
most
miss it no
competitive
more.
kid I've ever ran into. So I knew he was locked in after he missed the first one.
I love it.
Yeah, because I was like, what?
I love it. Well, Coach and Logan, good luck to y'all in the playoffs, man. Thanks for coming on. You guys having a great run. I wouldn't want to see Harding, and I know at the end of the game he's going for a kill shot. So you may give it away some strategy to your opponents, but
There
it's all
it is.
good.
Thank y'all for having me.
All right, thank you.
Good luck, Coach.
All right, guys, take care.
Thank y'all. I appreciate that.
They're having too much fun over there. Harding sounds like. All
Hey,
right.
that's a nice gym. That's a nice new gym they got over there too.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I hope they can fix the football field as well. That's the next thing they need to fix. All right, it's time for Chelsea's World, and I guess me and Coach Rick and Gary got to get out of no, me and Randall and Coach Rick got to get out of the way and let Alex take it over. Here we go.
So this week I interviewed Heritage senior Justin Moden, and this season in the NAC, I think it's the NAC 7 conference, he led in points and assists and was top 5 in steals. And I've been able to go to a few Heritage games this, past season, and I think he's a kid who really plays with all his heart, really fundamental, and puts it all every game.
It's Chelsea's World, and we're happy to live in it. So let's see what she's got this week.
So this week I have senior Justin Moden from Heritage High School also leading his conference in points and assists. So Justin, I want to start off. You guys were 4-6 in the conference. Just kind of give us the rundown on that season and how you enjoyed it so far.
I think we played fairly well. We dropped a lot of close games, especially in conference. It was a younger team, so a lot of guys, like, it was their first varsity experience, like, especially in conference. It's like, it's different, I would say, than non-conference games. So, like, we did drop a few. I would say towards the end, though, like, we really came together. We took care of business of the teams that we were better than, like Roseville, Nightdale, and then we snuck Wakefield early on. We upset them at home. So 4-6. I'm not gonna say I'm happy with that, but I mean, I'm happy with the way my team played.
For sure.
Couldn't really ask them for much more. I think they played like as best as they could.
I get that. And you've had a lot of experience with this Heritage basketball program, and this also being your senior year. Kind of talk about the leadership role that you took on both on and off the court.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had the opportunity to like play behind some really good guards at my time at Heritage. Lucas Taylor, Trey Waller, Kyler Bowden. He's at Ferrum now. And like those guys when I was younger, they really showed me like what it takes to be a winning team, what it takes to be a great leader. And I would say as I was a senior, like learning from those guys, I was able to, implement what they taught me and kind of keep the same kind of culture we have at Heritage. Like even off the court, I made sure the guys, like we ate before games. Like I made sure everybody was at school. Try to get them shoot around before games. Like during practices, just make sure I'm vocal. And then so like guys like we have on our team, Jared Bush now, like I want him next year to be able to do what I did and what people did before me.
For sure. And Justin, like said earlier, you led the conference in points and assists. Just kind of talk about your game on the court and really what makes you a threat.
I would say what makes me a little bit different from everybody else is my ability to get to the mid-range. I think it really keeps my defenders off balance because, like, as a 3-level scorer, like, you don't know what to expect. So, having the ability to get to the mid-range, then, like, being able to play off that, like, throw a hezzy in there, get to the basket, or, like, stay back and shoot a 3. Like, I think my defenders have to respect, like, what it is I'm going to do. They really, like, are on their toes. They don't really know what's coming next. And then I would say definitely I tried to play a little bit, like, better defense. I really tried to focus on defense, especially in conference. Like, that's, like, what wins and loses games. And I think I did pretty well on the defense side of the ball. And then rebounding, like, as a guard, average, I think, 4 rebounds, which, like, isn't too bad. Like, I wanted to be able to, like, show the toughness, I would say, as a smaller guard and getting rebounds. I think I was able to do that.
For sure. And this can also be both in conference versus out of conference. But what's one game this season that really like stood out to you, and whether that be personal performance, team performance, win or loss?
I would say there's 2 games that stuck out to me the most. The first one would be when we played Jordan in the Christmas tournament at Central. We did lose that game, but like that's probably the 3 best scorers of basketball we played. I think they were a better team than us, and I think like we were up in the 4th quarter, and they wound up coming back. But I think like as far as the team play, like that was our best game. Personally, I would say most memorable game would probably be Nightdale on senior night. Had 29 points, but like again, we played really good as a team. We beat them by like 20 or something. But like that was really memorable, to be in my senior night, being able to put on like a good performance. Yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. And to those who haven't been able to watch Heritage play this season, just kind of talk about the culture of Heritage basketball. You know, what's it like in practices? What's the mindset?
I would say like our history kind of speaks for itself. Like 4 out of the 6 years, like for the past 4 out of 6 years, we won conference. Since I've been on the team, we won conference twice out of the 3 years. So you know, there's really an expectation of winning, and like even when we're not winning, like there's an expectation that like we're gonna get better. So like even though this year, we weren't as good, I think like we still have the expectation that they're gonna win next year. And guys like Jared Bush, KJ Cox, the sophomores on our team, I think next year like they're gonna be really good. And so the expectation is always winning at Heritage, whether it's football, basketball. Like I would say it's very like we want to win games or win conference or win championships. And like putting people in college is also a thing. Like Heritage has done well. We had Jaden Gardner, Jaron McAllister, Thayer, Lex going to state for football, play basketball. So I would say playing at a high level and winning is an expectation at Heritage. For
sure, I like that. And Justin, what were some of your biggest goals that you worked towards this season, your best achievements earned, and kind of just talk about the process to, you know, earning that?
Yeah, so I would say I wanted to show that I was the best player in conference. Statistically, I did think I was able to do that. Led the conference in scoring, led the conference in assists, like I think top 5 in steals or something like that. So like that was a goal of mine, to show personally I was the best player. And then also I wanted to be able to show that I could lead a younger group of guys. And, you know, I think we were able to do that. Like it wasn't a team I was getting smacked or nothing like that. Like we played really tough. Like we played better teams really tough. Yeah, and then I'll say my best achievement this season would have to be when I was all tournament team in the central tournament during like the holiday break. That was a good three games for us. We were 2-1. We had lost to Jordan, but I think like that 3-game spread was our best 3 games of basketball.
Well, congrats on the work and the achievements you put in. And then finally, what's one lesson you learned from high school basketball that you'll carry on with you next?
I would say setting goals. Like, you know, before every season you have to set a goal. Like my sophomore year, I wanted to make varsity. I achieved that. And then last year, my junior year, I wanted to be first team all conference, and I did that. And then this year, I wanted to be one of the best players in conference, and I was able to do that. So, you know, setting goals and then like knowing how much work I had to put in to get to those goals would be like something I really learned over these past 4 years at Heritage. Another thing I learned was how to become a vocal leader. You know, off the court, like I am a little bit vocal, but like on the court, you know, I kind of want my game to do the talking for itself. But as I went on, I learned that you have to like be vocal to an extent, but like in a positive manner, like constructive criticism. And I think this year was a big learning curve for me, for sure.
For sure. And those are both really applicable outside of basketball. Well, thank you so much for hopping on. Again, this is Justin Moden, class of 2022 from Heritage Men's Basketball. And congrats on leading this conference this season.
Thank you.
That's an outstanding job, Chelsea. He exhibits great leadership. And in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. And he talked about how he followed the people that were ahead of him. Is he getting any college basketball interest?
I think so, some interest. I haven't really been keeping up on Twitter so much, but I've seen some. His dad's really active in his basketball career. So he's
how big a kid is he?
I want to say on Max Preps listed just under 6 foot. Not sure how accurate Max Preps always is.
It's accurate as the people putting in the information.
Yeah.
He's right at 6 feet.
He's 6 feet. Okay.
Chelsea, say admirable for me.
I think I was going for applicable. I kind of had it.
Applicable, yeah. I get tongue tied more than anybody in the world. That's why I was laughing. Tell the people how to get on Chelsea's World.
Yeah, so to be featured on Chelsea's World, my Instagram and Twitter is @ChelseaSickle. My DMs are open to any athlete, parent, coach, anyone who wants to make a recommendation or set something up to be featured.
Yeah, definitely reach out to Chelsea. She's doing an incredible job. Chelsea, you're in 11th grade, right?
Yes, junior.
Junior, 16 years old?
Yes.
And,
no,
and
17 as of January.
17 as of January, and on the show with all these grumpy old men every week and doing this knocking out of the park. I just appreciate you coming on, because I'm telling you, your videos do so much better than mine, because people just want to see young people talk to young people, not this old crackly guy doing it. So I appreciate you, Chelsea. We'll see you next week, all right?
I'll see y'all next week.
All right.
Good job.
Good job, Chelsea.
Good job. Simple. We've been really lucky with Kenzie and Chelsea being on the show. We'll have Chelsea for one more year. So if you want to be on Talking Preps and do what she does, reach out, because we can even ask somebody in the fall for football. We got a lot of special surprises for football coming. Can't wait for you guys to see those. All right, this is time for the rundown. But before we do the rundown, we had a little, I won't say an argument, but I had to shut Alex down because Alex was going off.
No, it was an argument. It was an argument. Call it what it was.
Alex was going off about conference tournaments. So I want to have a little mini coach versus coach with Alex and Rick. Subject matter. Alex, you first. Should the NCHSAA in the conference tournament format, is it time?
Well, first off, and I pointed this out last week, the NCHSAA, which is the beacon of excellence for athletics administration by a state association on an international level, not just in the United States, but internationally, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association never has mandated conference tournaments. This is something that each individual conference has decided to proliferate for decades. And conference tournaments continue to be what they have been for so long, an absolute fraud. I'm waiting for the day when conferences stop trying to defraud the public with this absolute scam, proliferating the notion that a season can be capsulized in 3 to 5 days. No, absolutely not. A conference champion is the team that over the course of, let's just take conference play, about a month or so, 4 to 6 weeks, that in playing each conference rival on your home court and on their home court, comes up with the best in-conference record among all the teams. That is your conference champion. Well, I was delighted to have Coach Dixon on the show earlier, but it also pained me, pun intended, for her to be talking about what she was discussing, because the fact that Mallard Creek was in the situation that they're in right now, where they worked very hard to earn a state playoff berth and had to decline it, is just absolutely ridiculous. And they had to decline it over injuries, and they had to decline it over injuries that were proliferated last week in a conference tournament situation. It's sad that a team's season comes down to that. But at the same time, we first and foremost must look out for the health, safety, and wellness of student athletes. So it should not have come down to a conference tournament ruining that for Mallard Creek. It pains me literally that happened. And lastly, as for this whole notion of conference tournament environments, about kids playing in front of arenas full of people in a conference tournament situation.
Hold on now, you can't go bunny rabbit on Rick and take his argument before he gets the mic. Now you can't do that. This ain't
all right. That's fine. So long as I have the opportunity to rebut. Okay, go ahead.
You have the opportunity to rebut. All right, Richard, your turn.
After this past week, just going out and really just watching the environment at both the Greater Metro 4 and the Northwestern events that I went to, and also across the state of North Carolina, almost every single conference tournament had jam-packed, crowds. It was overflowing crowds. The crowds were enthusiastic. And I went and looked at the number of games that was decided by like 1, 2, 3, and 4 points. There was over 7 games last weekend that was decided by 1 point alone. The amount of excitement at the conference tournament is unequal. And also, if we're thinking about the student athlete, we only have one state champion. So a lot of times what happens during the course of the season, and especially in a COVID era, you may have a situation where a team has injuries. They've had postponements or cancellations due to COVID. You may have a situation where, a high school has a lot of football players on their team. It takes them a lot during the season to gel. And case in point, you look at Harding, which we just had LJ Johnson on here. They finished 3rd in their conference. They were not guaranteed a spot in the NCHSAA playoffs. They won that tournament, which guaranteed them a spot in the state championship. I think for a lot of these student athletes, playing a conference tournament is exciting. It's great to play in front of 1,200 plus fans. And I think basically it gives those young men who may not have the opportunity to play at the next level, it also gives them another opportunity to play for something, and that is they want to play in the state championship. And I think that's a win-win for the fans, the school, and also the players.
All right, Randall, when Alex was talking, I saw the reaction. I saw
this is my point. This man loves education. He tells me how important education is. And guess what? When I go to school for these 12 weeks, and those grades matter. But guess what? At the end of the semester, guess what I have to take? A final exam. And so guess what the conference tournament is? That's the final exam. You played your way to a certain specific ranking. And then we go have this conference tournament. And so for these 3 days, you have to win. I was at the Charlotte Catholic East Met game Friday night. That game was 2 teams that knew that in order to make the state playoffs, that they had to win. It was a dogfight. They both got after it. And at the end of the day, Charlotte Catholic, who was the 4 seed, I believe, They won. And so now they get to play on Tuesday. I think if you get rid of the conference tournament, we're basically saying that, hey, things happen, but it doesn't really matter because, over this 6-week period, that's how we're going to decide, who the best team is. Yeah, it could be. But then you have these situations where these lower ranked teams understand the situation of if we don't win, our season's over. Harding, Charlotte Catholic, and I'm sure there were some other schools, but that's a prime example of what makes the conference tournament so special is that a lot of these teams know it's either win or go home, literally.
Right.
And another good example was Lake Norman. They finished 4th in the Greater Metro 4A, and they had to win 3 straight games in order to qualify.
Yeah.
But I think too, when you don't have a conference tournament and you don't have a postseason to play for, when you have the lower seeded teams at the end of the season, and they have maybe 3 or 4 games left, and they know there's no chance to play for anything else, they're not going to play with the same amount of passion. But when you have the opportunity that you're saying, hey, finish the season strong, and like you said, we'll take the final exam next week, we have an opportunity. You're giving those young men off each individual team. It doesn't matter whether you came in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th. You're giving everybody an equal opportunity, one last chance to play, to go to the big dance and play for a state championship.
I'm going to say something I very rarely say. Rick has moved me off my position. For years and years and years, I've advocated for a city championship in place of a conference tournament. I would still like to see a city championship, but I've also have said we could do it over the holiday break before or after Christmas or some combination of that. I would like to see that. I do like the idea of having conference tournaments for the reasons you guys named. But Gary talked about this last week. We need to have them all in Charlotte at Bojangles. That would be so phenomenal. Or UNC Charlotte, wherever you want to put them, that would be so phenomenal because then you can. They couldn't get everybody into the Queen City, and they actually moved some kids out. But if you have it at Bojangles, you can have 5, 6, 10,000 people in there, and announce the all conference teams. I don't think any conference in North Carolina does a really good job of announcing their all conference teams, and especially these all tournament teams. Like these all tournament teams are afterthought because as soon as the game's over with, everybody runs out. And there's, the kids are standing there, there's nobody watching. I want to make a big deal out of that. And I think having it at Bojangles would allow CMS to kind of showcase the very best of itself. And I think in these days and times, we need to do that. All right. So I'm going to move on to the rundown. I'm taking the final word. And We're going to start here. Going back to the playoffs, Alex, Butler was tied for first place in Southwestern 4A. East Meck was tied for second. Neither one of them got into the playoffs. Is there a flaw in the process?
Well, of course, there's a flaw in the process. The process is flawed inherently, and that's not a commentary on the NCHSAA, the beacon of excellence in sports administration on an international level. That's not a commentary on the association. It's a commentary on the reality that the process is going to be flawed no matter what we do. So, I mean, there's no point in harping on it. Let's go back to the drawing board and continue looking at how the Max Preps rankings are used, and you also have to remember that conferences do have some leeway in determining representatives beyond their automatic bids. It's not a guarantee that a conference champion, like if you get 2 automatic bids, that a conference tournament winner, if it's not one of those 2 automatic bids, just because you win the conference tournament, you're not guaranteed to go to the state playoffs, depending on what your conference decided in terms of its qualifiers beyond the automatics. So yes, it's a flawed process. It was a flawed process before we began. It's a flawed process now. It's going to be a flawed process next year. It just reminds us that we have to go back to the drawing board and continue working day by day.
The Southwestern 4A this year, East Meck, Butler, Rocky River, and Charlotte Catholic, they all beat up on each other. Independence too. Butler did not make the playoffs because Butler lost. Butler lost Thursday night to Charlotte Catholic and followed it up Friday afternoon and lost again to Rocky River. You lost your last 2 games, 2 opportunities you had to make sure that you got into the playoffs, and you lost them. And they looked at it. I can't fault them for leaving them out. They lost two of the most important games they had all season. They lost. East Meck has a legit argument. They made it to the final. They finished second in the conference. I think they have a better argument. But again, like I said in my previous statement, Charlotte Catholic, East Meck, both teams knew in order to get in, we got to win. Only one winner you can have.
Okay. Well, Randall, right back to you. The NCISAA Final Fours are set. You know, in the girls, we have Raven Gap, Wesleyan, North Raleigh, Cannon. On the boys' side, Greensboro Day, Cannon, Latin, and Carmel. Are there any surprises there, and do you have any predictions about what's going to happen?
The double bye struck some people in the butt. Like we talked about last week, you know, the double bye can be a double-edged sword, and going the whole week without playing a basketball game seemed to hurt some people yesterday. You know, I think on the girls' side, Latin, you know, being there in the Final Four, you know, Raven Gap being there in the Final Four, I think is a little bit of a surprise. I mean, North Raleigh Christian, obviously with Amani Lester, Cannon's been rolling all season long. I think they've been playing with a chip on their shoulder.
If you look at Twitter, they're definitely playing a chip on their shoulder.
Listen, I try to. They got a ringleader over there, and I try not to pay too much attention to what he likes to tweet out because he's tweeting every hour on the hour. But yes, no, I mean, I think they've had a great run. They are playing some really, really good basketball, and they have a lot of good pieces that fit together. So I think, you know, Cannon's going to have a shot. I'm guessing they'll play North Raleigh Christian in the championship. So how they guard Amani Lester is obviously going to be huge, and we'll see who ends that one. On the boys' side, I think Greensboro Day and Carmel have been on a collision course all season long. Mm-hmm. That Latin Carmel game on Tuesday night is going to be exceptional. But I think, you know, the size of Carmel will probably wear on Latin. It'll be interesting.
Latin doesn't have a Cade Tyson. That could be
they don't have a Cade Tyson. No. That is for sure. But you know, I'll be interested to see how Coach Badgett and Coach Berger, you know, 2 defensive-minded coaches, try to guard each other. How Latin's going to guard Cade, and also how Carmel's going to guard Ned Hull.
Rick, I'm curious. Cannon 15-14 in the semifinals, knocked off Providence Day, which was the regular season champion, the only team in that conference to beat Providence Day. Are you surprised about Cannon? More surprised about Cannon, or more surprised Providence Day is not here?
Well, at the beginning, I had, you know, basically, I think last week we picked, you know, Carmel, Greensboro Day, Providence Day, and Latin. And on my, you know, 5th seed, I had picked Cannon. I think on paper, Providence Day had the most talent of any team overall in the private school sector this year, except for Burlington School. I think if you look at Cannon, what basically happened is a couple of things. Number one, Cannon's back-to-back state champions. They lost Christian Reeves due to transfer to Oak Hill. So, they were anticipating having Christian on the lineup. The second thing that happened was Austin Swartz, who's one of the top sophomores in the state, was injured for the majority of the season. He came back at the MLK event we had at Carmel, where they played Weddington. And they played Weddington to a very close game. It was like a 2 or 3 point game.
Right.
But if you look at the losses of Cannon during the course of the season, and I think it goes back to the thing with Che Raw, he'll play the toughest competition. He's not worried about the individual record during the course of the season. But let's look at some of the losses. Weddington, the top team in the 4A in the public school. He played Chambers, another top team. He's already played Word of God, one of the top non-association teams in the state. And he also has already played Greensboro Day and also Carmel, Audrey Cale, and South Meck. That's what you call running the gauntlet. And yes. Also, they were, so many times nowadays you have injuries, but the other thing that we're dealing with now in high school basketball, and going back to the argument why you have to have a conference postseason, in the day of COVID, so many situations occurred during the course of the season where kids are either out for COVID or you have a postponement or a quarantine. And it really does affect the chemistry of the team overall. So, if you look at Cannon, they had beat Providence Day earlier at Providence Day. They lost to them at home. So I'm sure Che Roth going into Providence Day had a healthier lineup. You had Austin Swartz almost 100%, and also could tell his team, hey, we beat Providence Day already on the road. And, the game went in overtime, and they won in overtime. And now, Che Roth is back, in the hunt for the state championship.
30 in a row making the Final Four for Cannon. So congratulations to them. Providence Day was had a lot of injuries, a lot of nagging foot, ankle type of things. And Trey Horton, one of their starters, was out with a knee injury sustained in practice during the week. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes that week off, like Randall said, maybe you try to do a little.
It's a great matchup for Cannon too, because coming off a team like Providence Day that doesn't play with great pace, and kind of it's gonna be a low scoring game. I mean, you go to Freddie on Tuesday, it's gonna be a low scoring game. Yeah. You're gonna have to find a way to make shots and win that game. So they're gonna be coming off of Friday night. They should be, or last night, Saturday, they should be ready to go Tuesday.
Cannon is actually very impressive. I like Schwartz is the lead guard, and Nick's big body coming downhill, and then they got Karan Boyd cleaning up on the other side. And
Isaiah Henry, the freshman.
I mean, they have a lot of talent,
for sure.
And they have that experience, like Coach says. I think they'll get, and they beat Greensboro Day at Greensboro Day a year ago en route to winning their back-to-back state championship. If I was picking right now, I still think Carmel's going to win it all, but we have to see.
Well, the other thing too, Langston, is Cannon played Greensboro Day earlier in the season and lost, but it was a very close game.
Yeah.
Traditionally, Cannon always plays Greensboro Day to a really close game. Now, traditionally, both teams have been very, very good, but don't count out Cannon going on the road and making the upset against.
Oh no, not at all. Because one thing Che does have, his teams can play with such a pace and kind of entice you to play faster than you want to play. And I know Randall's talking about a 49-40 type of game, but sometimes they'll get Greensboro Day into a track meet, and that's not what Greensboro Day does well. They really kind of goad you into playing that way. And they got Providence Day a little bit like that too, because Providence Day wants to play that slow down 2-minute possession type of game.
Right.
They got sped up last night and it hurt them. And I was there and it hurt them in that game. Gary, with so many NCHSAA first round games, are there any that catch your eye, or potential second or third round matchups that you look at and you say, man, I like to see that game?
The one that catches my eye is on the girls' side would be Independence and North Meck. I think that's going to be a good one. And what intrigues me is last year, North Meck's best player, Jessica Timmons, transferred to Independence to play for Coach Galvanari, who we also know as Lauren Lewis, who played at North Meck, and Dwayne's daughter.
Yep.
And it kind of presented an awkward situation for a North Meck player to leave to go play for a former North Meck North Meck player whose dad also coached at North Meck.
Mm-hmm.
And, it kind of hurt North Meck's girls' season last year, and they bounced back. Coach Baker has done an outstanding job at North Meck this year.
Yeah.
And so that game kind of intrigues me is North Meck Independence.
Alex, anything jump out at you on the public school side?
Yes, I'll go on the boys' side here. In the 4A East, the Wakefield at Wake Forest game. These schools are separated by less than 5 miles and have had 3 tough games already this season. Wake Forest won 2, Wakefield won in the conference tournament. They'll be back at Wake Forest again for a 4th meeting. I'm intrigued not only because of these nearby rivals, but I'm also intrigued because I can't help but think that we'll probably see the DJ that Wake Forest has had at all of its home games sitting in one corner of the gym, creating an absolute distraction and disrespecting the game, and frankly creating a safety issue on the court. I want that DJ to be gone. That has nothing to do with the game. And as Gary Richmond said earlier this season, if you want to stand out, play well. We don't need a DJ on the baseline. You're creating an unnecessary distraction.
I knew that.
And one other game of note. And this is what's going to catch on the 4A West side.
Okay, is
the Weddington game. It doesn't matter who Weddington plays because Weddington is going to catch my attention every time because Weddington is the kind of team that you want to watch at this time of the season because they play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And they do the one thing that you have to do to put yourself in a position to compete for and win a state championship at this time of the year. Get on deep.
They do that.
Hey, I think before we move on to the next one, a couple big games. Myers Park, Charlotte Catholic Tuesday night on the boys' side is a game that I have circled. Pat Tibnan, Vaughn Thomas versus Sir Muhammad and Elijah Strong. Both those
all guys that work out with you, Randall. That's not fair.
Not all of them. Pat and Elijah do not. It's gonna be interesting to see how they match up, though. I think they're 2 teams with tremendous size and tremendous athleticism. I'm excited to see how they match up against each other. Second round matchup on the girls' side. I'm looking at Chambers versus South Meck in the second round. I think that's gonna be a game.
That's what I'm talking about. That right there should not happen. You should.
Hey, Randall.
2 conference champs playing.
Hold up, Randall.
Yes, sir.
You do know that South Meck got to get past Hickory Ridge first, don't you?
I understand.
Here we go.
I understand that. I understand that, and I knew that when I said that I was gonna get stopped by you. But I'm just saying, if I'm looking forward and looking at the bracket, what I'm trying to see, that is one of the matchups I'm trying to see.
You picking chalk. No, I hear you. I got an email today from a Hickory former superintendent of Hickory Schools who's mad that Hickory's not in the Observer 316, Rick Lewis. And one of the matchups I'm looking ahead to is Hickory as a number 1 seed in the 3A playing West Charlotte on Saturday. I know Hickory hadn't had the chance to play a lot of the ranked teams we have around here, but they're going to get a chance to play who I think is the best 3A team, or one of the 2 best 3A teams in the West is West Charlotte. I think West Charlotte Central the Bears are on a collision course down the West. And as I look at the 4A, like Randall said, I think that's a huge game. Harding and South Meck looks like a really good first round game to me as well. Myers Park, Charlotte Catholic definitely going to be one, but it should be a really fun public school playoff. I think Saturday has a chance to be really, really special for public schools. It's also private school state championship day. So hopefully some of you public schools will play a little early so we can see all these games on Saturday and not have to miss any. But I think it's
Langston, I had on the 4A, I agree with the point that Myers Park and Charlotte Catholic will be a really good game. But how about the Harding versus South Meck game?
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah.
Also on opening. But here's another team that you might want to could sneak up on some people, and that's Porter Ridge. Looking over their resume for the season, they're 19-7. They lost to Audrey Kell.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to like Carmel. They took Weddington to a 2-point game later in the season. I'm looking at the brackets. They have South Caldwell first round. If they win that game, they'll probably play the Chambers game versus Lake Norman. I would assume Chambers.
I wouldn't want to play Chambers. Chambers is going to be mad, and they're really talented. They're going to be a lot of people in Waterloo that they get to Weddington down the road.
Well, here's the thing that I worry about Chambers, and I've said this all year long. They have the most talent on paper in the public school sector, no question.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I see with Chambers is they have a tendency to look ahead. They beat North Meck in that final game in overtime at home, and then of course the next game they played, they had to go play Mallard Creek on the road.
Yep.
That game wasn't decided until the last minute. They were sort of looking ahead.
Yep.
But they get into the conference tournament, they're playing Hopewell, just thinking that, hey, we're going to be winning this game to play North Meck.
Oh, they were absolutely going through the motions against Hope. And no disrespect to Hopewell, but Chambers was not there until it was like too late. But sometimes, Rick, taking that loss late in the year is good for a team. It kind of refocuses them. And I think now, knowing that there is no tomorrow, it doesn't matter if we look ahead or not, there's no tomorrow. I just think Chambers is going to be I would not want to play. I would not want to look at my bracket and see Chambers down there. And Chambers and Weddington down the road, if it comes to that, that could be like a state championship worthy game. But now we got to find.
If they all win, Chambers will play Weddington in the fourth round, which would be the quarterfinals.
Yeah. That could be one heck of a game.
What side of the bracket? I hadn't looked at the boys' bracket. What side of the bracket is North Meck on? Are they on Weddington's side or Chambers?
No, they're on the opposite side. They're on the bottom side.
They got the 11 seed, which that was hard to believe.
Yeah.
Now going back to Hickory, as far as in the Sweet 16, I wasn't sure they were in the viewing area.
Yeah, no, they are in the viewing area, so you gotta have to hook them up next week. All right, so there you go, Hickory. So that's on Coach Lewis. We all make mistakes, but take care of you. All right, it's time to find out who's
one more question on this. That Hickory West Charlotte game. Where is that going to be played?
Higher seed.
So it'll
be at Hickory.
It'll be at Hickory.
Yes.
Does Jacoby Davis have one of his assistants assigned specifically to make sure that Donovan Raymond's foul count is correct?
Strange things happen in Hickory to CMS teams.
I mean,
strange things happen to CMS teams in Hickory.
I wouldn't want him to be told that Raymond has 4 fouls in the second quarter and he actually has 2.
We've seen that happen before, but I think West Charlotte and Central Cabarrus are headed on the collision course in that 3A West. All right, it's time to find out who's in the Mr. and Miss basketball list. We cut them down to 8. There's definitely one surprise. One young lady who Randall had been high on, who he kicked out, apparently got really mad and played phenomenal this past week, and she played her way back on. We'll get to that when we come back from this. So, Randall, we call Blanca Thomas Shack because she's so big, and you kicked off the list, and looky here, she's right back.
Listen, when you come to the conference tournament and you average 24 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 2 assists, you have no choice but to get back on this list. She had a great week. And another young lady that had a terrific week was Mia Holloway over at Chambers. She dumped in 33 Friday night on North Meck. And just playing at a very, very high level. All these people that are remaining on this list, their team led their teams this year. Most of them are ranked high when we look at the playoff seeding. So this is going to be very, very fun to see how everything shakes out as we get to the end.
Gary, any surprises here? Alex, any surprises?
No surprise. I'm just happy he put some people back on here from Mecklenburg County because he eliminated them all last week.
Hey man, we gotta acknowledge everybody.
Randall got a lot of hate mail last week.
Those small schools get left out a lot of times. So last week I had to make sure they were taken care of.
Hey, everybody needs to leave Randall alone because if everyone remembers what I said last week, yes, I did say that it was noteworthy that there were no Charlotte Mecklenburg student athletes on the list. But I also said that it's gonna come back around. I said it last week. So everybody leave Randall alone.
All right. Well, we're gonna stick with 8, I think, for 1 week, and then we got to cut it down again to 3, and then we'll pick our winner. Hopefully before the state championship game. I think I've been saying it all year, but that's going to be the plan. I'm not sure if I'm able to stick to it. Hopefully before the state championship, we're going to name Ms. Basketball from North Carolina. And let's take a look on the boys' side and see what Mr. Lewis did, who's been loath to change his list all year, but he had to change it this year. He had to cut it down this week, rather. What do you got?
One thing I've learned, Randall, is you're a glutton for punishment. You know,
all the time.
Hey, I'm on the firm belief if you come up with a list, you stick with it. They only get mad at you one time.
Right.
When you change it every week, they're going to get mad at you every week.
Exactly. See, you're an expert. I need to follow your lead, Coach Lewis.
You know, I just had to narrow it down from 12 to 8, which is really difficult. And the most difficult thing is, you know, every week, Lane said, who you want to add? And I go, I add someone, I have to remove someone. So again, I'm looking at this list and, you know, Jordan Crawford is leading North Mech, who, you know, I do think North Mech, and I agree with Langston as a team, we probably need to look out for. You know, they're learning to play without Jeremy Gregory, and they lost 2 games, advance and overtime. And I think they could be winning a tournament, could be peaking at the right time. You know, Silas Emery is one of the top players in the state. Freddie DeLeon, we talked about him. Chase Lowe, you know, you look at, you know, state champions last year, they won 18. They're 25-0. They won 43 straight games. Paul McNeil's in the conversation. Daniel Sanford, Kay Tyson, Patrick Wessler, all top players in the state of North Carolina.
It's a great list. I think any of those guys could definitely be Mr. Basketball. You know, we always kind of see somebody maybe emerge as the playoffs get going, but, you know, we still have a little bit of time left before we get down to it. You know, I don't envy you guys. I've picked these things for years and years. I know what it's like to catch heat for it. All right, now let's check out the state basketball rankings. Alex, what do you got?
We're pretty consistent throughout. Northern Guilford holding on the top spot, still undefeated. No real surprise there. Mix it up a little bit in the Charlotte Fight Club. Obviously, Providence Day took a hit with that loss. But congratulations to Christy Mitchell and South Mecklenburg for the conference tournament win over Myers Park.
Shout out to Christy Mitchell. Let me interrupt you real quick. Her father passed away a couple weeks ago. I know she dedicated that win to her father. So that was really big for South Meck.
Absolutely. So congratulations to South Mecklenburg on that. And then you just see, I mean, Chambers with the big conference tournament win, but I mean, Myers Park beat them. So, I mean, that is what it is. Shelby still rolling. Apex Friendship with Indian Navarre came back from a 15-point deficit versus Panther Creek in their conference tournament final to move into the top 10, solidified their position. Talk about the job Jennifer Baker's done at North Mecklenburg. Blanca Thomas, what she did with Charlotte Catholic. Then you see a group of, I want to give a shout out to 12 through 15, the Garner, Hillside, Millbrook, and Cardinal Gibbons girls. All 4 of those teams ran the table in their conference with regular season and tournament titles.
You know, Alex Salisbury is winning about 40 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, and they should be in there in the mix. We'll see what happens with them down the stretch. A Salisbury Shelby collision course.
Yeah, I think that
could be pretty special right there.
Hey, Alex, where would Lake Norman fit into that? They ran the table too.
Listen, I was gonna say it. Lake Norman hasn't been on these rankings all season, and they are on a collision course. If everything goes the way it's supposed to play with Tugger in the 4th round of the state playoffs, who has, you know, a freshman, you know, that school up in Boone named Kate Sears. If we get that matchup on the girls' side,
Kate Sears can ball, y'all.
Kate Sears can play, and if they get to play Lake Norman in the playoffs, that could be a special matchup.
Yeah,
Lake Norman's got a point guard. Her last name is Williams. I don't want to see her anymore this year.
Kirsten Lewis-Williams, she's really good. Girls basketball in 4A is like really good this year. I mean, it's really, really good. Where we talk about public school boys being down, public school girls is, 4A is really good. Myers Park had not lost to a North Carolina team all year long. South Meck went in and just beat them from the start. Just beat them. And South Meck's, hitting a stride right now. I think Myers Park, they got the GOAT coach. They're going to bounce back. They're going to be just as tough as they were. Chambers is kind of flexing their muscle.
I've been studying that film all weekend.
Well, I don't think you're going to be able to duplicate it because Barbara's not going to let you. Chambers is going to. They're starting to get that this is our time confidence. They've won the last 2 state championships, and they kind of feel like this is what they're playing for. And I think they were kind of messing around to a certain extent a little bit in some of the regular season. But I think the conference tournament, they kind of said, here we are. And they're going to be tough. I just think that there's so many good teams in 4A West. I mean, Grice talks about the 4A West Football Fight Club. We got a 4A West Girls Basketball Fight Club. It's going to be a phenomenal playoff in the West, and I'm hoping that'll be the case in the East, and we'll have a good championship game. Alex, will I have that, or will we not get that?
It very well could happen. I think the thing we have to watch out for. I was speaking to Cardinal Gibbons coach Cheryl Reed yesterday. This could be a situation where hopefully it doesn't get to the situation where Coach Dixon at Mallet Creek finds herself. Who is healthiest at the right time down the stretch? Because these teams are beating up on each other, and these are elite level teams. We talk about the high quality of 4A women's basketball this year. It literally just might come down to who's healthiest at that time.
Wow.
It's the same thing in the greater Charlotte area, in the greater Raleigh-Durham area. Who is going to be healthiest? And if you can survive that Fight Club road to get to the final, who's got what left at that point?
All right, Ray, let's take a look at the boys' side. What we got?
Not a lot of change at 1, 2, and 3, and Burlington School checks in at 4. A lot of people may question why I have North Mecklenburg ahead of Chambers, since Chambers beat North Meck twice at overtime. The fact is, and no disrespect to Hopewell, but you can't lose to a team, in the semifinals of the conference championship, and then the next night North Meck beats that team by 25. But not a lot of change throughout it. The only other change that we added was Holly Springs is 21-4, and they won their conference tournament championship, and we elevated them into the top 20.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these rankings change as we get into the playoffs, because inevitably, I'm like Chelsea, I can't talk. Inevitably, there'll be some upsets and things like that, and then you have to kind of decide, well, this team isn't playing anymore, and they were like number 6, so should they still stay in or not? That's always the fun part to me as we're doing these rankings.
Well, for the most part, all those teams except for Providence Day has a chance still to win a state championship, either at the public or private school level.
That was a big loss for Providence Day. I think all year long, a lot of people thought they were going to make it all the way to the finals, and didn't quite happen. All right, so it's time now for coach versus coach, and Randall, come off the mute button. Are you scared, Randall? Is that why you on the mute?
I had to make sure that my phone had enough juice. For coach versus coach.
You lost in game show. You didn't want to lose.
Yeah,
twice.
I can't lose twice on the same show. That's completely unacceptable.
I hear you. I hear you. All right, let me get Rick out of there. I'll get out. When you guys come back, it'll be Alex's show.
All right, here we are, coach versus coach, Sir Randall Clark and Sir Gary Richmond. And Randall, I'm going to begin by helping you out here. You said you can't lose twice in the same show. Well, you win the coin toss. So there's your win right there. So you already won something. So you can start us off here. All right, independent schools. You take the best teams and make a super playoff class. What do you think about that?
I mean, Yeah, I think it would be fun for the fans, but high school is a little bit different. Can we consistently have these super teams? Can we consistently have this super playoff class? I think that becomes the interesting factor. I think it just depends on how you're going to put it together and what the qualifications are going to be for everybody.
Gary?
No. I'm going to say no, simply because there's so much discrepancy in school size at the private school level. I don't think it would be fair. I think the big schools would always win. This is not the 1950s Hoosiers movie where, the little guy has a chance to knock off the big guy. I don't see it happening. I think they need to stick with what they have.
All right, let's go to the NCHSAA for a moment. We've been talking about brackets today and selection processes and all that good stuff. So, Gary, having been through this process many, many times as a coach, computer-based seating system that we have, or should we look more like an NCAA model with a selection committee? And I'm going to add to that, if a selection committee, then who or what kinds of people?
No selection committee. I think we need to stick with the computers because everybody has the same input into the computer as far as strength of schedule, conference record, that type of thing. I think once you get to a committee, then it becomes, all right, who chooses the committee? There's going to be some issues with that. And I think that's where you run back into what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where you have the legislature or some political body or somebody who thinks they have more influence trying to get people on the committee for their own purposes. And so I think the computer is the better way to do it.
Randall?
I'm always going to be an eye test guy. I'm always going to say that it depends. I like to see what's out there. And, I understand that we can go to strength of schedule and road wins and road loss. I understand a computer can put all the information together, but at the end of the day, let me put a committee together to where they can go watch these teams play, and we can really see what's what and who's who. And, you pick a committee of 10 to 12 people, and they can be from all over the place, and we get together on a Saturday and we roundtable it to figure out who are the best teams that are most qualified to be in this discussion.
All right, let me follow up on that, Randall. So you got your committee together and you come to sit down at the round table. Not names necessarily, but in terms of positions or roles or capacities, who are these people?
Well, you can take former coaches and they can make up. You can take former athletic directors. Like, they don't have to be directly related to specific schools right now. I think you can find, more than qualified people in the state of North Carolina to represent these things, to represent these teams, and to make sure that we have that everybody gets a fair chance at getting the proper seating.
I think when you start choosing a committee like that, he's saying former ADs and former coaches. What I've found is most former ADs and most former coaches at the high school level, they quit following high school sports. They are retired. I mean, they're out. They don't know what's going on. They don't know anything about the conferences. The only coach they know are the same coaches that they competed against. They don't know the new coaches. They don't know the new schools. They don't know anything currently about current high school sports. And that's the problem you're going to run into. It would definitely have to be people who are active in high school sports now on that selection committee. If you're looking at retirees, they're done.
All right, let's go back to Gary here. Speaking of a retiree who is far from done, that's the great Gary Richmond right here. He's far from done. So let's go back to your days when you had teams contending for state titles, and you had the regional format where the regional semifinals and the regional finals were at the same site. and you had that whole regional week. So what would you think if the NCHSAA went back to a model that would allow someone like Langston Works to do one of his favorite pastimes and spend an entire week in Hickory? What would you think if the NCHSAA went back to the old regional week format and you played the state quarters and the state semis at one site?
I loved it because you got a Final Four feel. You had a press conference. You got to answer questions from people throughout the region. You got to meet the other coaches before the game. I look forward to it when my teams were participating in the regionals. What was even funny about it is one year I think we had 3 teams from Charlotte in the Western Regional, and the coaches, we rolled up together. And we're going to compete against each other in a couple of days, but to save gas and time, we was like, hey, let's ride up together, and we just talked basketball, knowing that we're going to have to play each other in a couple of days. But that was fun, going to a central site. As long as you put the regions in Wake County in the east and Mecklenburg County in the west, because that's probably where most of your teams are going to come from. I'm just saying.
All right, and Randall, I'll give you another win here. You're gonna get the last word, so that's another win for you. Well, what you got on this one?
I mean, I'm all about just leaving it the way it is. I'm one of these new school guys. I like to know exactly what I'm getting myself into. I like the fact that I think the setup we have right now is good. I know a lot of people are like, we can go up and watch North Mech versus Olympic. We can watch that from here. We shouldn't have to drive up to Hickory to go watch that. But I think, for other people in the state to be able to come to those games and to play them, at arenas that, you can get some other people into, I think it makes it fun for the kids to, get on the bus and, for a regional final game, get to go up there and compete.
And there you have it, coach versus coach, Randall Clark, Gary Richmond, and I will be the first to affirm that both of these distinguished gentlemen are 100% winners. And there you have it, coach versus coach.
Well, I definitely think we should go back to the old regional format. I thought it was really cool, like Gary said. I used to go to Hickory or Greensboro or Winston, wherever it was, on Monday night, and they start playing Tuesday, and they play Tuesday through Saturday. And I got to see all the best teams in the West in all the classes, girls and boys, during the week. I used to really like when it was at the Greensboro Coliseum Annex. I thought that was a really good site.
I liked it there better than Hickory.
That was a great site. Hickory tended to be a little too small. I just remember there was a West Charlotte grandmother that passed out trying to get an LR, and there's some situations where family members couldn't get into LR to see Lenore Ryan to see some of the West Charlotte games back in the 90s and early 2000s. But I think Gary's correct, having it at like Davidson or UNC Charlotte or Bojangles or somewhere like that. Plus, you can have the smaller schools at a local high school site. Could be a great thing. But I think that's an opportunity that the state association needs to grab onto again. In the East, they would ECU and Fayetteville State sometimes. I hadn't been to an Eastern Regional in God, I can't remember when. It was 20 years ago at least, since I was at the Eastern Regional, but it was well attended. The ones I went to like 2 or 3. They were packed, well attended. And it's like Coach Lewis says with the conference tournaments, it gives everybody a chance to come together. And I think when you can bring really good teams together and celebrate them, and getting that regional championship in front of multiple teams and multiple fan bases is more impressive than getting it at North Mecklenburg High School in front of the same fans that are there. So I really would like to see the state go back to the old regional week format. I think that's something that's necessary and needed. And since we're getting on the backside of this pandemic, I'd love to see us go back to that. Speaking of the pandemic, a lot of school systems are going mask optional. A lot of counties are lifting mask mandates.
I would tell you, I hope we don't see these kids playing with these chin straps around their faces in the state tournament this week. I do not want to see that. Let's get rid of the mask. Get rid of them. Let's go play basketball. Get rid of the mask.
Should fans still have to wear masks, Gary? That's my next question. What about fans in the stands?
You're not going to enforce it, so what's the use? I mean, hey, people have had more than enough chance to get vaccinated. If they choose not to, then that's their personal privilege. And if you don't feel safe around people, then wear your mask. but I think, the fans should be mask optional, and the players, let's get rid of the chin straps.
Well, I agree with you. I just hope that, this new variant they're talking about isn't what they said it was. I would hate for us to take the mask off and then, the science comes back and says we need to put the mask back on, because people are going to be even more reticent to go back to it after the second time.
Well, here's your easy way. Here's your easy evaluative standard. I'm speaking as a school administrator and as an athletics administrator.
Yep.
If LEAs, local education agencies, or school systems, if the school system goes mask optional in terms of day-to-day site-based teaching and learning,
right,
then it becomes mask optional for education-based athletics participants and spectators. Be consistent.
Be interested to see what they do when the state championship comes around. There,
what happens? But what happens when you have teams from different school systems playing each other, and one has mask optional?
You got to go by the home.
You go by the host. You go by the host. The host LEA. You go by the host LEA.
What does LEA stand for again, Alex?
Local education agency.
Okay.
All right. It's time for the big star of the big show to give us his final word before we get out of here.
It's my favorite time of the year. Tournament time. Win or go home. Leave it all on the floor. It's always going to come up to the little plays. Missing a closeout, missing a box out, late game turnovers. I think there are going to be some special games this week. I think there'll be some special moments. And I hope that everybody that gets to participate in the state playoffs, both private and public, embrace the moment and be ready, because you never know when it's going to be your time.
Absolutely. Well, Rick had one last comment on regional locations, so we got here. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, I tell you, we've talked during the course of the year of, as far as public schools losing players to private or to non-association schools. I think that's a good opportunity for the public schools to move into a permanent location for regionals and really allow the media to provide more coverage. And I know, for example, for ourselves, it's difficult to cover all these multiple locations. If it was at one location, just like you said, you can sit there and look at all the teams and you can provide more quality coverage at one location. Also, from a college perspective, college coaches would envy the idea of having it at one location, because they can go there and see multiple teams, multiple players in one day. But I do think it's a great opportunity for public schools to have that one location, build it up, like the road to the Final Four, and have a certain location. Like you have to go through Charlotte, you have to go through Raleigh in order to get to the state championship. I think that's an opportunity for the public schools to really take advantage of.
No, you're exactly 1,000% right. The regional championship, the best thing like I said, is on Tuesday I could see the 4A, and then Wednesday was 3A semifinals, and Friday it was 2A, and then Saturday was the championship. So you could see them all, because on the earlier days it might be multiple locations because they couldn't have them all at the Greensboro Annex. But on Saturday, from 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock, saw everybody. And then they put some over at Greensboro, University of Greensboro, UNCG. But you can see just about all of the big dogs, right, sitting right there in one place and not have to move. Me and Q-Tucker go get some spaghetti for lunch, in one of the media rooms. But yeah, it was great. And I think that's a missed opportunity. The private schools do a great job with their state championships. We're having them all this year. They're not doing it, but all at one site. And you can see all the games, the championship games at one site. And it's really great because all the people come together, all the ADs and coaches and all the media people come together. And we just kind of camp out. And, I watch games that have nothing to do with my area just because they're playing. I'm sitting there. So
don't you think the players of the teams that are going to the state, to the regionals, probably like the idea of going somewhere like a certain area?
Yeah, but you get excited. Back when I started, all the state championship games were in Chapel Hill. So everybody says, I want to go to Chapel Hill. I want to go to Chapel Hill. That was the big thing, get to Chapel Hill. So what you're saying is right. I want to go to Charlotte for the regionals. I want to go to Raleigh for the regionals. I think the state association definitely needs to jump on that. As they make this merger with the State Board of Education, Alex, maybe that's something you can suggest. I know you have connections up there.
And one last comment, Links, and I want to really emphasize this, especially with the NCHSAA. there might be some outliers, like, for example, what you saw last night at Providence Day with the jam-packed crowd for a private school game.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is there's no, and I'm putting this in my blog for Wednesday, there's no environment like the public school conference tournament championships in the state playoffs. For young players, whether they go play collegiately or not, to have that opportunity to play in front of 1,000 to 2,000 fans, I think is priceless. I think it's an experience that if I'm at the public school level, I'm going to really enhance that and talk to my players that you don't want to turn this opportunity away to play in this kind of environment. I think
it was special up there at Greater Metro. That tournament up there in Lake Norman, that place was packed. There was more than 1,500 people too. The fire department may be coming up there. That place was packed, and it looked like a lot of fun. My man, Coach, shout out to Coach Calloway, played really well for Lake Norman up there. But fellas, it's been a great show. We're right at 90 minutes. I said we're gonna be heavy, but I'm not gonna be heavy. So we'll come back next week. We'll talk about regional round of public school playoffs and state championship winners on the private school side. I'm Langston. That's Alex. That's the contrarian. That's Gary, my friend, my frat brother. That is Randall Clark, the best trainer I know. And last, that's Rick Lewis, who is the #1 voice of North Carolina high school basketball. And we are Talking Preps.
Thank you so much, guys.